All right, so imagine this. Okay. A 16-year-old kid, not some like shadowy government agent or something, right, manages to break into the systems at Digital Equipment Corporation,
Yeah.
DEC, and copies all their super valuable proprietary software.
Yeah.
This wasn't just some, small little data breach or something. I mean, this sent shockwaves through the entire corporate world. Everyone suddenly had to rethink how they were protecting their data.
What's really interesting is the contrast that this whole event exposed.
Yeah.
You've got this teenager showing this, like, really deep understanding of these complex systems, and then you have these massive corporations at the forefront of technology.
Yeah.
You hadn't even thought about basic security measures to protect their most valuable assets.
Right. It wasn't just a wake-up call. It was like, hey, there's this huge imbalance here between how fast technology is moving and how prepared we are to keep things safe.
Right.
And so that's what we're diving into today. We're going way beyond the headlines about, hacker Kevin Mitnick. We're going to explore his whole journey, a story full of curiosity, risk, personal transformation, and that blurry line where, incredible talent meets unconventional methods, let's say.
It's a story that really goes beyond just cybersecurity.
Mm.
Throughout history, we've seen people who are driven by curiosity or this need to push the limits. They challenge norms, sometimes even laws. And understanding what motivates them can teach us a lot about human nature, whether we're talking about cybersecurity or, figuring out our own personal growth.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, our goal today is to really break down Mitnick's experiences. We want to understand what makes someone test the limits. What can we learn from his successes, but also his mistakes? We've got a ton of detail about his life from when he first got fascinated by communication systems all the way to his later work as a cybersecurity expert.
Right.
Our mission is to uncover those key lessons that are hidden within his story.
It makes you wonder, right? Like, what was it about those early telecommunications systems in L.A. that grabbed a young Kevin Mitnick?
Ooh.
It wasn't just about getting free calls.
Definitely not. The story paints him as being totally absorbed by how these systems worked. And get this, by 12 years old, he had already mastered phone phreaking. It wasn't malicious hacking. It was more like cracking a code, finding hidden ways to use the phone network.
Yeah.
Kind of like knowing the right buttons to push on a vending machine to get a free soda, right? It showed real technical skill.
Yeah.
But at its heart, it was pure curiosity. He just wanted to understand how things worked.
And that curiosity seems to be what drove him in those early days. The whole DEC thing at 16, copying all that software, the accounts from back then say it wasn't about money. It was about the intellectual challenge, the thrill of getting into a system that was supposed to be impenetrable.
Totally. It was the puzzle itself. You have these giant corporations, seemingly untouchable, and this teenager finds a way in. It's like a digital David and Goliath.
Yeah.
And the way corporations reacted, it wasn't just a whatever. They had to face the fact that their most valuable digital assets were way more vulnerable than they thought. They had to scramble to fix those holes.
It makes you think, what is it that pushes someone to go so far outside the lines, risking so much just to explore and discover? It says something about what humans are driven by, this need to understand, to overcome challenges, even if it means breaking the rules.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. It's 1992. Mitnick isn't just some kid messing with phone lines anymore. He's America's most wanted cybercriminal. That's a big jump.
Huge jump. He's not just testing systems now. He's actively running from the law, living under fake names. The stakes are way higher.
And the way he was doing things changed. He hacked into Motorola's systems. And this is where social engineering comes in. Now, this isn't about exploiting code. It's about understanding human psychology, using people's trust, their willingness to help, to get what he wanted.
And it shows a shift in his approach. He's not just relying on his technical skills. He's using his understanding of how people behave to his advantage. He was cloning cell phones to stay connected while he was on the run.
Yeah.
It shows how resourceful he was.
It's during this time that we really have to ask, was he a bad guy? Or was he a misunderstood genius? On one hand, he was breaking the law, no question, accessing systems that weren't his, but his motives, as far as we can tell, weren't malicious. He didn't want to cause chaos or destruction.
Yeah?
It seems like it was more about the challenge, the pursuit of knowledge,
Yeah.
just in a really unorthodox way.
And if we look at the bigger picture, it makes us think about intent. Is something wrong just because it breaks a rule? Or do the reasons behind it, the potential harm it could cause, play a bigger role? It's a tough ethical question, and his story brings it to light.
The stories from this time describe him as constantly on edge, always looking over his shoulder, aware that the authorities were closing in. It shows the pressure and risk that came with that lifestyle.
For sure. And it emphasizes this idea that pushing boundaries always comes with risk. The more he did, the more likely he was to face serious consequences. It's a tough balance to strike.
Which brings up a question for all of us. How often do we find ourselves in risky situations, bending the rules maybe, taking chances for something we believe in? Maybe it's not hacking, but that urge to push the limits, it's something we all experience.
It is. And recognizing those risks, whatever our goals are, is important for making good choices.
And then, 1995, after 2.5 years on the run, it's over. He's arrested in Raleigh, North Carolina.
That's the moment where everything catches up to him. The reports from back then talk about all the charges against him, and there was that almost mythical claim that he could hack into NORAD from prison. It shows how his reputation had grown, partly from fear, partly from people not really understanding what he could actually do.
It definitely added to this larger-than-life image of him. But for Mitnick, this was a major turning point. He ended up spending 5 years in prison. That included 4.5 years waiting for his trial and 8 months in solitary confinement. That's a long time to reflect.
It must have been, especially that time alone. The sources compare it to crossing a desert. It suggests a difficult, lonely journey that leads to some kind of clarity. With nothing else to distract him, he had to face the consequences of his actions. No escaping it.
And it seems like that journey, that crossing the desert, really did change him. When he was released in 2000, Mitnick decided to use his skills for good. He became a sought-after ethical hacker. It's a pretty incredible turnaround.
It is. He took the same knowledge and skills that had caused problems before and used them to help organizations protect themselves. His expertise was like a lifeline for many companies. He helped them turn their vulnerabilities into strengths.
And it wasn't just theory. His earlier actions, even though they were illegal, actually exposed serious weaknesses in the security of big companies like DEC and Pacific Bell. This led to them investing a lot more in cybersecurity. So in a weird way, his actions made the digital world safer, even if that wasn't his goal at the time. It just goes to show how even disruptive things can lead to positive change in the long run.
Exactly. It forced the industry to realize that data security wasn't just about technology. It was about trust, about reputation, and about constantly adapting to new threats.
And his journey didn't end there. He started his own company, Mitnick Security Consulting, LLC, and he co-founded KnowBe4. He dedicated himself to teaching and training people about the same cybersecurity threats he used to exploit, especially social engineering, those methods of manipulating people.
Right.
It's like he became the ultimate insider, using his deep knowledge of these tactics to help others protect themselves from becoming victims. One source describes it as him stoking the fires of ambition, inspiring others to improve their security. That really fits.
It does. It's a powerful example of someone taking their understanding of vulnerabilities, both in systems and in people, and using it to build stronger defenses.
So when we look back at Kevin Mitnick's life, it really is like a tapestry woven with threads of triumph and failure, as one of the sources put it.
It is. And it brings us back to those fundamental questions. How far are we willing to go for what we want? Are we ready to face obstacles and setbacks? His life shows that drive, even when he was taking big risks.
One of the sources reminds us of something Mitnick said: there's no patch for human stupidity. It's a pretty blunt way of saying that human behavior is always going to be a weakness in any security system. But it also hints at a solution: becoming more resilient, learning from our mistakes.
Which is so important. While technology is essential, it's how people act that creates vulnerabilities. And it's also how we can create better security practices. Learning from mistakes, our own and others, is a crucial way to patch that human element.
So here's something to think about. What are you going to do with your talents? Will you use them recklessly or responsibly? Will you let setbacks stop you? Or will you use them to grow?
Mitnick's journey shows us that it's possible to overcome adversity, to change your path, and use your abilities to make a positive impact.
Exactly. Let his story inspire you to overcome your own challenges and unlock your potential. Be ambitious, like Kevin, but also learn and grow along the way. And like one of the sources says, let's focus on building bridges, not burning them.
That idea of building bridges instead of burning them perfectly captures his transformation. He went from someone whose actions could be seen as destructive to someone who actively worked to make the digital world safer.
As we wrap up this deep dive, here's one final thought. Every challenge has a potential solution waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to look for it. And Mitnick's story, in its own complex way, really embodies that.
It does. It's a reminder that even the biggest obstacles can be overcome with creativity, perseverance, and a willingness to learn and adapt.
So go ahead, create your own tapestry of dreams. The world's waiting to see what you can achieve.